We've got Paul Kalajai, who is the chairman, Lagos Ferry Services. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Yeah, good morning, and good morning, viewers.
Yes, indeed. What we've seen, we just heard from NIWA. As you can see, he's inundated us with different court judgments this morning concerning what's going on. Let's get to hear from your perspective now. In your perspective, what is going on?
Well, I am not here to react to some of his comments, but I like to put the facts straight on the table. First and foremost, I like to say that it's a match that is ongoing, and as we speak today, it's 2-0. You remember, yes, it's a match.
Who's leading?
Lagos.
2-0.
Yes, and I give you the analysis. You want to understand that the NIWA had never gone to court. Let's put it straight. Those who went to court had dredgers associations to ask the court that who is the legitimate authority to which they should pay levies and taxes to. Is it NIWA? Is it in Lagos State government? And then the first court says, okay, fine, it's NIWA. At that point in time, we were constrained as a state government respecting that judgment. But then we felt that was not right enough and went on appeal. And the appeal court said that judgment was given in error and that the authority to which they should pay to is Lagos State government. And then the fishermen also went to court after that appeal judgment. Just 1.5 weeks ago, they also lost in court. The court pronounced that the judgment of appeal subsists and that the authority legitimate to pay taxes to and levies to is the Lagos State government. And then validate the law setting up LASWA, which is the regulatory agency for Lagos State government. And then that is where we are as we speak today. But as we speak today, NIWA has not appealed to Supreme Court over that judgment. And we expect that they must also respect the judgment. If they have the desire to appeal to Supreme Court, we shall be ready to meet them at the Supreme Court.
Sorry, Jimmy. They're quite close to you. There are 4 judgments he put down there.
Yeah.
One of them is an appeal court judgment, which gives NIWA the right over waterways in Nigeria. But you're speaking specifically about Lagos waterways.
Yeah.
So does the Lagos Assembly have a right to repeal an act that set up NIWA?
Let me also tell you that the NIWA Act is a product of the military. It was a decree. Go back to history, it was a decree. So it wasn't actually an act of parliament.
But it was ratified in 2004.
So what they have been doing, and then also let me explain to you also that the issue of inland waterways is not in the exclusive list, nor in the concurrent list. So, and it goes without saying that they cannot legislate over it, over inland waterways. What constitutes inland waterways? Let me also explain that the federal authority has control over the marine waters, the tidal waters, and of course, the international waters. While intrastate waters refers to waters within each state. And in respect of Lagos, we have the lagoons and the creeks. And all the lagoons and the creeks terminate within Lagos territory. And I give you examples of we have the Lagos Lagoon, we have the Lekki Lagoon, we have the Ologe Lagoon. All of these lagoons do not, extend to international boundaries.
But is it the lagoons that are in contention here?
The lagoons are not in contention. I tell you, the lagoons are not in contention because the lagoons in Lagos start and ends in Lagos. And I can give you the boundaries of all of the 3 lagoons that I've mentioned. The creeks ends in Lagos. So what to say is that NIWA cannot bring a judgment. You need to go and read the judgment that is before you to say that the judgment is in favor of
which one? Which one?
The appeal court. The appeal court judgment is very specific and is been in the public glare.
Let me take you back again to the laws. The fact that it's the product of a military decree.
Yeah.
Does it stop it from being amongst the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria?
It doesn't.
It doesn't. So
but I explained to you.
Does the State Assembly have a right to repeal or cancel a law a Nigerian law?
A law that emanates, that is not consistent with the provisions of the Constitution by law is null and void. What we're saying is that you cannot sit down and make a law that is inconsistent with the laws of the land. It will be null and void to the extent of its inconsistency.
So on what basis?
What we're saying is
on what basis did the Lagos State Assembly cancel out that federal law?
The federal law was cancelled, was repealed, and then the last one law replaced it. But then it's been in contention to say, was what is the Lagos State House, was it right or wrong? And then the Federal Court of Appeal has said what Lagos State House of Assembly did is right. It has validated that decision. So until when that decision is reversed by the Supreme Court, that decision stands. So what we're saying is that as far as we are concerned, I'm listening to say that the position of Lagos State government is just mere revenue. But let's look at who have actually served the interests of Lagosians.
Yeah, but before we come to that, you know, it's also very important because when you were talking about 2-0, and then of course, you know, there are rules about all of those. So quite a lot of people will tell you that, look, they don't see any role whatsoever for a state house of assembly at that to legislate on a federal law. And that's very clear. If that's the rule upon which you say is 2-0, don't you think there's a question mark there?
No. Let me explain to you. The arbiter in any matter of the people within a nation, within a sovereignty, is determined, the final authority rests with the court of law. And if you are saying that what Lagos State House of Assembly has done in the repeal was illegal, was wrong, because it was a federal law, and then a court of appeal has legislated over it and said what the Lagos State House of Assembly has done in doing that and creating LASWA is legitimate. That decision cannot be invalidated except by a Supreme Court.
So what do you say to some of those court judgments that he's dropped before us, where he cited different judges, including Justice Soho, where they said it was is in the exclusive list? And so
it's not. That's not what the judgment says. I've not gone. He brought the judgment here. I've not read what is there. But to the best of my knowledge, and by the brief that I have from even the Attorney General and the legal team of the state, even as at yesterday, it says very clearly that the judgment still stands until when there is an appeal to the Supreme Court.
So LASWA is in charge of the intra-waterways?
Exactly.
According to that law?
Yes, according to that law.
And NIWA is in charge of the inter-waterways?
The federal controls three main waters: marine, the tidal waters, and international waters. And then they should confine themselves to those responsibilities.
And in this case now, using the water that takes you from CMS to Ikorodu, for instance, that's not, they don't have any business.
At all. At all, because it neither falls either within the marine waters or within the tidal waters or within the international waters. Let's ask ourselves, one of the major agitations in Nigeria today is about the fact that there is overburdenedness of the federal authority over the states and the local governments. Everybody is saying there must be power devolution. And then let me also correct what he said about the governor, saying that the governor went and canvassed at a town hall meeting to say that there should be devolution of power to the state. That is an admittance of NIWA supremacy over the control of intra. That was really faulty. So what the governor says and what every Nigerian says and what Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is saying is that there must be true federalism. And that under true federalism, we cannot continue to do the same thing the same way and accept the same results. Today we have voted for change, and then things must be done properly. What we're saying is that who actually is responsible to the people in terms of care, control, and welfare